Hey, Blake T. Wild here, and welcome back to the Ultimate Era! And things have changed since last part. I changed my shirt. And welcome back to the third and final entry into this 3-week-long coverage of Ultimate Doomsday. And if you haven't seen the previous two videos covering Ultimate Enemy and Ultimate Mystery, check them out on the channel now to catch up. Released in 2010, written by Brian Michael Bendis with art by Rafa Sandoval, this is Ultimate Doom. The story begins a few hours ago. Sue Storm and Rick Jones teleported to Project Pegasus, where Sue discovered Reed Richards was still alive, and leading a battalion of hulking monsters as they raided the facility, because Project Pegasus in the Ultimate Universe just gets no breaks cut for it. Every time it shows up, it's being robbed. Sue generates a force field around herself and breaks down as she realizes that Reed faked his death, killed his entire family, attacked the world, and attacked everybody they know and have befriended, even attacking her at the Baxter building. But Reed clarifies that he didn't attack the world. Then he orders his soldiers to finish this up and get moving, and Sue blasts him with her powers. Realizing that this isn't Reed Richards, it couldn't possibly be him. Reed screams out that she doesn't know him. She never truly knew him, even though everyone treated her as the expert on Reed, because she was his girlfriend. But Reed presses a key on his machine and she is electrocuted. He calmly informs her that the sacrifices he's made have been done in order to ensure that a world he believes in can take form. A world that isn't ruinous and edgy, where people get hurt and the bad guys win because the bad guys are the government or whatever. Pretty much the Ultimate Universe. He warns her to not try to stop him and make this a physical confrontation, because he won't allow her to do that. Then Sue forms a force field around his throat and begins suffocating him. Reed malforms his body in an attempt to fight it, and she forms a force field in his skull and expands it. Reed loses it and shouts that he can't believe how disrespectful she's being by trying to even do that on him. And his soldiers open fire and blast Sue's force field apart, exploding the invisible barrier and launching her away into the wall. Reed whines about physical confrontation and how much he hates it, demanding to know why she was always doing this. And then Rick Jones appears and realizes that he was sent here because of Reed. Rick powers up into Nova and unleashes his power as Reed and his soldiers attack. Nova strikes their portal, causing it to malfunction and rip Reed in like spaghetti noodles. Sue forms a force field around his head and holds him in place from being pulled inside, but the energy is too powerful and begins dragging her as well as the monsters attack Rick. Sue screams in pain as she tries to hold on. Rick then grabs her and flies them up and away and into the night. And they escape, and Sue slowly, weakly carries them back across the country on the floating platform to New York. Back in the Roxxon facility, Jessica wakes up to find that she's been secured to a massive operating table made of nightmares. The Brain Trust arrive, and what the fuck, Misty Knight? I don't know why it's so shocking to me that Ultimate Misty Knight is a bitch, but, like, she seemed fine in Ultimate Galactus trilogy in the book that she appears in. Like, what happened in between then and now that it just soured her so much, I guess? Anyway, Jess asks what kind of whack jobs these people are, and then Otto Octavius enters the room. In the presence of the Triskelion, Sue is rushed into the medical wing under Code Blue, which is not a good thing. Johnny follows until they tell him that he can't go back, and he falls against the wall and breaks down as his entire head erupts with flames. He stomps to his feet and marches to Fury and Rick and demands that Rick Jones take him to Reed Richards right now. Rick tells him he doesn't know where he is, and Johnny loses himself again and the sprinkler system goes off. Ben tries to argue that they still don't know that Reed actually did this. Ben's known Reed since they were kids. He can't accept that this is truly happening. Fury tells him that means diddly and squat and demands Johnny flame off. And in the emergency room, Sue's vitals flatline, and the doctors try desperately to restart her heart again and again. But there's no response.
You know, we should come up here and have picnics more often, Dr. Richards.
I've never actually been on a picnic before.
Really?
Really. My family never did stuff like this.
Then you're lucky you met me. What are you thinking about so hard?
I don't like the world, Sue.
Huh, well, how about we go find a new one then? Maybe we should move into the end zone.
No, not there. It's borderline unstable. But just imagine all of the other dimensional planes we're going to be able to find. Worlds upon worlds. And out there somewhere, there is a world that is perfect. And if it's not, maybe we can make it perfect.
Perfect how?
One that hasn't made all of the mistakes that this one has, where science isn't for sale. One that doesn't reward cruelty, where brilliance is standard.
Brilliance is standard. You're in a mood.
We don't have to stay here. Don't you feel that a lot of times there's just nothing for
Our
us?
friends and family are here.
You know what I mean.
I'm not sure I do exactly.
I want to go exploring.
We do all the time. We're the Fantastic Four.
I want to find a world that we can make our own.
I can't tell if you're being romantic or creepy.
Sue bashes back into life and convulses out an invisible force field pushing through the structure. And inside the bubble, Sue screams in pain and Ben ripples with energy as he calls out to her and feels himself phasing through the barrier and enters. And inside he finds Sue, and he pleads with her to calm down and stop what she's doing. She looks up and realizes he's there and asks how he got through the force field. She's shocked when he doesn't know the answer, and Sue cries that Reed Richards is a monster who has lied to them, lied directly to their faces this whole time. Ben comforts her and says that all he cares about right now is making sure that she's okay, because he thought that they lost her. She apologizes and he tells her not to do that as the force field dissipates and the others enter, and Sue tells them that they need to evacuate the building. Back in the past, Dr. Otto Octavius tells the Brain Trust the history of Miss Jessica Drew and his scientific genius that brought her into existence. He laughs that she's not here because of the Roxxon attack. She's looking for payback. Then Spider-Man crashes into the room and asks if anyone's seen a crazy mad scientist with a bunch of octopus arms. He clocks Otto and begins webbing up the others and frees Jessica, apologizing for not following her plan. Then Samuel Stearns attacks. Spider-Man dodges away as Spider-Woman goes after Otto and starts beating his ass. Spidey runs over and tells her that they need to get out of here, and Otto chuckles that he won't allow that to go unpunished. And then he's webbed up. And as the early morning sun begins shining, Jessica Drew and Spider-Man escape, and eventually they land on a rooftop. And Jessica gives Peter a big hug and thanks him for not following the plan and saving her life. Then she breaks down after seeing Octavius. But it's interrupted when a massive explosion echoes through the city and another biomass erupts from the Roxxon facility. Back at the Triskelion, Sue and the others are in the command center, hunched over the control decks, and Sue demands that they get Tony Stark on the phone and pull up all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s files on Reed's research. Danvers reveals they don't have any. Then Nick Fury reveals the secret code phrase, 4-Eye Freak Kill Switch, and all the files appear. Danvers watches in disbelief that they had secret Baxter Building files this whole time that she never knew about, and Sue reveals that these are all different dimensions on the same plane of existence as their own that Reed discovered. Danvers suggests that they take all this information to a secure location, and Sue tells her there's no such thing with Reed being loose in the world. Then she asks Mar-Vell for blood and urine samples because he was corrupted by Reed's dimensional shift, and there might be biological evidence of him which matches the data that Fury has. Then the entire Triskelion quakes. And this must be pretty damn strong if it's making the Triskelion, the world's most secure military location, able to withstand the ultimatum wave, shake into its foundations. Fury orders everyone still inside, outside, and Sue runs back to the computer and works on sending the information to Tony Stark. The entire Triskelion erupts as a vertical blast rips through the floors. In Latveria, the Capitol building, aka Castle Doomstadt, is destroyed. 7 casualties. In New York, the Baxter building continues to crumble. 3 casualties. In Modesto, California, the Howard Stark Bioengineering Lab and Research Facility smolders. 23 casualties. In Seattle, the Seattle Tech Biomedical Engineering Facility is in ruins. 43 casualties. In Jersey City, another Roxxon building is decimated. 58 casualties. And at the Triskelion, the casualties are classified. In the cold Atlantic waters, Sue floats in a bubble and contains herself and the others from the still raining debris that falls from the sky and into the depths. She tells them that they can't go up yet because Reed is probably monitoring the area from some kind of hacked satellite or something, and Fury agrees and says that if Richards thinks they're dead even for a few minutes, then they can use that to their advantage. Sue turns to Rick and tells him that he needs to get them out of this predicament and far away from the Triskelion. So Rick suggests that they all hold hands just in case something goes wrong, and then everyone teleports back to Project Pegasus in Wyoming, just a few feet too far above the Earth, and they all fall to the ground. Ben checks on Sue, and she assures him that she's fine, and they embrace. Fury loads his rifle and tells the Romantics to can it because there's someone inside still. He and Danvers take point and find Wendell Vaughn. He drops his rifle and apologizes to Danvers for failing her and reveals that Richards stole away with pretty much everything that they had. And Fury actually begins to panic because Project Pegasus is where S.H.I.E.L.D. kept things of power. Ancient alien artifacts, doomsday devices, machines, and magical items that no one could possibly have any good use for. And he suggests that they might have to find a truce or surrender to Reed Richards. Sue tells him there's no way that's happening and demands that the Baxter Building files and a lab. And Vaughn tells her there's a research lab 10 stories below them. Back in Jersey, Spidey and Jess swing into the action to save as many people as they can from the expanding biomass tearing through the city, and they spot Octavius, calling for help. Spidey races to him and Jessica tries to stop him, but he shouts that they help everyone, no matter what. Meanwhile, Project Pegasus, Sue works diligently with Mar-Vell. Elsewhere, Danvers and Fury talk in the anxiety-ridden downtime. She tells him it's killing her not knowing if the surface is still there, and blames herself for not stopping Reed after she took over S.H.I.E.L.D. And she laments all of the lives that were lost under her command. Fury tells her that it's something that she's going to feel for the rest of her life, but she has to put that shit away until she has a quiet moment to think about it, because right now she's in charge, and she cannot let that get to her. Ben and Johnny, meanwhile, stand around, and Johnny tells his chum that Reed's become more like Dr. Doom than Dr. Doom ever was. Ben tells Johnny that this is killing him. He just doesn't understand how Reed could have ever gone off the deep end like this. And Johnny tells him that things change. Reed isn't that scrawny little kid that Ben befriended back in school and had to protect from bullies. Johnny asks if Ben needs to sit this one out, but Ben grimaces and tells his friend that after all of this, he's going to look Reed in the eyes. Ben promises to kill Reed. Johnny silently waits out that heavy reveal, and then they look over at Sue, and Johnny asks Ben if he has fallen in love with her. And Ben tells him that he did. And that Sue knows, and Johnny smiles and tells him that that's pretty cool. Then Sue finally gets a result. She's discovered a pocket dimension that Reed set up shop in and has been launching organic biotech attacks from. She suspects he's using an advanced version of the end zone teleporter that gave them their powers in the first place. Fury asks if she's able to track it, and Sue explains that she would need more samples of the creatures that keep attacking them. Sue asks Rick to teleport himself to the Roxxon Corporation, collect the sample, and get back ASAP. And meanwhile, our stories are finally catching up to one another. Jessica and Peter desperately work to free Octavius from the biomass, and they all fly away as Otto thanks them. Then the thing begins combusting and crumbling right as Johnny and Rick fall out of a teleportal. Johnny runs up and hugs Peter. He's so excited to see that he's still alive, and then explains what's going on. Peter, Jessica, and Otto sort of just look at each other in confusion as Johnny collects a sample of the organism, and Otto tells them to take him with them because he can help. Jessica screams at him, but Rick says that Sue asked for him to grab any scientists he could find, and they're all reality warped back through to Project Pegasus. Meanwhile, in the pocket dimension, Reed works diligently at his control center when Ben Grimm appears. Reed panics and his soldiers attack, but Reed orders that they stand down. How did you... Wait, no, I can figure this out. Sue, could get you here with the right data if she had the materials, which I knew was a growing concern as the clock kept ticking. How did you get into my fortress without setting off anything? Answer my question and I'll answer yours. What was the name of our 8th grade teacher who tried to kiss me? Darlene. Darlene the Dream Machine. That's exactly right. You really are reading. You look glorious, Ben. I cured you, just like I promised. Yeah, well, my new powers give me all kinds of new powers. And that's how I walked right in the door. So I'm hoping that you also had some sort of, I don't know, second level of power thing happen in your head, and that's what happened to you. It cracked you open, Reed. No, Ben, I'm not cracked. It's me. I see the world clearly for what it is now. You're breaking my heart, buddy. No. Listen, there's a place for you in this. I didn't attack you. You see the world better now? I do, Ben. Look again. Look again. The Ultimates shield, along with the Invisible Woman, Human Torch, and the Spider People, with Otto Octavius, break through into the pocket dimension, and Sue launches Reed away with a force fist as a fucking helicarrier enters reality, and a massive battle breaks out. Danvers orders everyone to stick to the plan, and Johnny unleashes his full unbridled flames upon the alien army. Reed's charred body lies limp over top of itself as Sue slams him again and again and demands that he stand up, while Marvel leads Spider-Man, Otto Octavius, and Nova into their part, and Captain America shouts out orders. Then Reed picks himself up and screams through his scarred face and attacks Ben. Spidey and Otto arrive at the command station and try to figure out what this weird amalgamation of technology that Reed concocted is, as they work to undo all of his commands and services and information. Otto pushes Peter up because he believes that he can dismantle this. As Ben clobbers Reed to the ground, the duo undo all of Reed's work, and Richards screams that they have no idea what they're doing. Then Rick teleports them away and into the playground of his old elementary school and closes the portal behind them. The group catch their breath, and Marvel smiles and realizes that the plan actually worked, and it worked pretty quickly. They won, and Peter realizes why he had been targeted by Reed along with everybody else, and Otto smirks and tells him it's because Richards knew that Peter Parker was smart enough to undo what he'd made. And Otto actually tells Peter that his potential is unlimited. And Otto is not someone who compliments people with frivolity. He really means it when he says that Peter is truly an intellectual peer, both to Otto and Reed Richards. And then he kind of says that Peter's wasting his time being a superhero instead of, putting his brain to proper work. Peter tells him to stop kissing his ass because he's gonna make sure he gets arrested anyway. And back in the pocket dimension, Reed's fortress falls apart without his technology to hold it together, and the battle continues to rage. He screams that they have all ruined any chance they have of living in a perfect world. Danvers places him under arrest when the entire structure shudders and begins crumbling, and a blast explodes out into the void, taking Reed with it. Ben tries to make his way after his old friend, but Sue stops him, and they watch Reed's motionless, distended body float away. And the heroes all board the helicarrier, and they return to New York City. A few days later, a newly initiated agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., Jessica Drew, interrogates Otto Octavius with Director Danvers. Otto asks why they're doing this after he helped them, and then offers his services to work alongside Captain Marvel, with Marvel acting as Otto's assistant, of course, to decipher and dismantle all of the work and information that was created by Reed Richards at the Baxter Building and after. He'll also provide the Roxxon Brain Trust and intel on everything he was working on there. Danvers tells Jess to let him go back to his cell and she'll think it over. And that evening, as the sun sets, Ben Grimm stands aboard the helicarrier and overlooks the remains of the Baxter Building, the dried husk of the biomass still crumbling and drifting aimlessly in the winds. Sue walks up behind him and tells him that he needs to stop running out of the room before she can answer him, because when she thinks about the things that she liked about Reed, when she thought she knew him, she realizes that a lot of it was things Ben made him do, or pushed him to do. And she realizes that no matter how much they might want to think about stopping, they're never going to be able to stop being heroes. And they're about to enter a crazy new chapter in their lives. And she wants to do that with Ben. Sue tells him that she loves him too. And almost every good thing that has ever happened to her happened with Ben standing right beside her. She tells him that there are women that wait their entire lives to find someone who looks at them like he does. And she thinks that after all of the pain and anguish that they've lived through and experienced, they deserve as much happiness as they can possibly bring each other. And she does not want to mess around or wait anymore. And then she asks if Benjamin Grimm will marry her. And Ben stammers out a yes, and they kiss in front of the setting sun. Meanwhile, in the pocket dimension, Reed Richards clings weakly to a shattered fragment of what was. Because sometimes things just fall apart. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode of What Is and this yet another exciting, tremendous addition to the original Ultimate Universe. Let me know your thoughts on Ultimate Doom, the very beginnings of Reed Richards as the Maker. And also let me know what you thought of Ultimate Doomsday as a whole. I think it's a very well done trilogy. I think Brian Michael Bendis does a great job. Rafa Sandoval, who, if I remember correctly, does illustrate all three books. Phenomenal. I love his cartooning. Great work on the art. So much stuff he had to do, too. This is such a more high concept-esque story for the Ultimate Universe, but it's just done so exquisitely. I very much enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts, though. And I am happy to have finally reached that moment where Reed Richards goes bad. Broken and mentally ruined, following not just Ultimatum, but his entire existence, from the abuse that he faced as a child from his father to the pariah status that he had as a teenager, or even a child at the same time, child into teenage years, and the immense loneliness once he attained his abilities and it began changing his mind itself and his body. Reed Richards of the Ultimate Universe is no longer human. He hasn't been human since that fateful day in the Nevada desert, and after Ultimatum, after Sue declined his proposal, after the world fell apart, he finally realized that fact. He finally discards the mask that he had been wearing. He stops being a square peg going through a square hole. Because he's more than that, and he's realized it. Reed Richards is now a villain, and it's tragic. It's a tragic downfall of an idealistic young man who is a genius scientist, who becomes a full-blown maniac who is so lost and utterly disillusioned in the world itself that he does this! We just saw in the past 3 books what he can do, and this isn't even the most of it. It gets even crazier after this. And the aspect of Reed yearning for a better world is such a major part of being the Maker. Even now, in the present day, that's the entire reason that he tampers with Earth 6160, the new Ultimate Universe, and finally creates his perfect world. Of course, we saw how that turned out, but just like the projections and simulations that he ran and continued to run until Ultimatum, the projections on how he could stop Dr. Doom, his new perfect world also ends in violence. And the world itself of Earth 1610, following Ultimatum and Ultimate Doomsday trilogy, it is now totally different. Characters are moving on, things are changing, it is becoming darker and far more unstable of a place to live. And that's really the overarching theme of the Ultimate Universe, and it's a very realistic one. And it was spoken by an alternate reality, Magneto. Sometimes things just fall apart. No matter what you do or how you hope to stop or fix something, sometimes it's simply inevitable and it's going to happen. And I do love how much Jessica Drew is in this. I love Ultimate Jessica Drew. I wish that she was brought into the main universe. Of all the goddamn spider people that fucking exist on Earth 616, how is she not one to make the jump Come on, she is so good in this, and she gets her own role. It's a bigger role than she's really had before, especially in the earlier books, and the fact that they never made a Jessica Drew Spider-Woman Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. is ridiculous. How is that not a several issue series or an ongoing series in the Ultimate Universe? Come on, she's such a great character, and she's learning from Peter, but still struggling with her own feelings and development in becoming her own person. And I just, like a lot of stuff in the Ultimate Universe, so much wasted potential. So much could have been done from her, from the atomic level and up. How does she feel in her mind being a clone of a boy who is now a girl? How does she see the world? How does she want to break out and become her own person? How the fuck does she afford an apartment in New Jersey? Ultimate Doomsday is really a great major stepping stone in the world of Ultimate Universe following Ultimatum. And I hope that you enjoyed this video and the trilogy of Ultimate Doomsday and the entire Ultimate Era as it progresses and continues. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. As always, check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Smokey's videos for early access to videos when available. All of my comics are posted on there, movie commentaries, and more. Check out my Etsy shop where you can purchase the physical copies of my comics, the Custodians, Agents of Cross, and Destructo Boy. Every purchase comes with a free head sketch of any character of your choosing, and my other podcasts. I Need Some Disney, where my Disney-obsessed wife and I discuss all things Disney, from the rides to the parks to the movies to the shows and everything in between. And there's a podcast in the Percolator, a Twin Peaks podcast, and Gamer Milk, which is something I kind of do on my secondary gaming channel, Smokey's Save File. I will see you guys next time. Bye!